What's going on, people? So, got another pair of shoes here to talk about real quick, side of the box, so you can see what all's going on down there, right? This isn't one of those models that I think a lot of people are really even paying a whole lot of attention to, and it's not like a big interest of mine, so I'm gonna kind of just breeze through this one more so, right? Because I just don't see a reason to give the whole breakdown. It looks cool, so I'll at least get you some decent pictures in there, but there you go. There's that right off the top. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump on into it. This whole review thing, right? On these right here, this is going to be the Asics Noosa Tri 16 in the Day of the Dead colorway or Green Gecko. If you've been around here a little while, right, you might remember some other pair of Asics shoes I had, Dynablast. It was also Green Gecko, right? And I bought them for very much the same reason, because they looked kind of cool, right? Cool looks will get me once in a while. They really will. So whatever. Let's go ahead and jump on into it, huh? Starting with the bottom, what are you looking at down there? Pretty plain sort of a design for the outsole as far as the layout, but the color selection going on with that whole mixed up thing going on in there. Like, I really like the way that looks. Kind of reminds me of the Adidas Terex 2, remember that? Or there's also something else that I picked up that had a similar sort of design. Just maybe the Adidas Marble Splatter? Something else, I don't know. But either way, kind of a cool look, but otherwise not a whole lot going on. Up here on the midsole, right, what are you looking at there? Very much just plain black, not a whole lot happening with it, right? And the Flight Foam Blast Plus, right? Typical foam stuff on the bare minimum side, right? They just made it a little better than like the previous years, but this isn't one of the ones that you brag about like the FS Blast Max or Turbo or anything like that. So don't get your hopes up like you're like, oh, is this going to be amazing? Unlikely. So another couple pictures in here real quick so you can kind of start to see what this design is looking like, right? Because like I said, it is the Day of the Dead release, so you kind of have a little bit of extra stuff going on in here. Though honestly, like a lot of the Tri 16 shoes and even like the previous ones, they seem to do a lot of like special releases of these. So it's a shoe that's kind of worth paying attention to model-wise just for that reason, right? Just because they make a lot of cool looking ones, right? And sometimes that's enough. Anyways, moving on past that. Like I said, get you some pictures in here real quick, right? We'll start down here at the front and just kind of work around. When you're looking at the toe box, you kind of see like a lot of stuff going on in there. Very colorful and everything like that. Though once I started looking a little closer, it did look a little crappy in some ways. Just the print job. It looks nice from a distance. Up close, I was like, okay, whatever. And then moving along on the side, you see a lot of the same stuff, right? Still got the continuation of that design. And one thing that I think is pretty cool, you do have like this Asics, whatever this thing is called. It's got some sort of like glitter type of look in there. I don't remember if this was 3M or not. I'm honestly not even sure if I checked now that I think about it, but I'll figure that out at some point later. And then on the back end, you do have a little bit of branding over there because that's the thing that matters once in a while. So on the outside, you have like the Noosa Tri. So there's going to be that in case you wonder what model. There you go. If you look on the inside, you have a 16. So that'll tell you which version of that model, right? Lots of times with the other Asics shoes, they put it all in one or whatever. But you know, you can't do everything the same way, otherwise it'll get old. On the back, you got some little circle thing. I'm not sure what the significance is of that, and a little pull tab back there. So nothing crazy. And then jumping back to the front, you got these nice lime green, bolt green, whatever laces you want to call this color. So you got that happening. But the bigger thing to me, and those are just plain, they're the same color all throughout, right? You probably noticed that. But down at the bottom, you do have this little face, guys, like a lace debris. I thought it was going to be solid when I first saw it. But no, it's just like a little fabric thing here. It's kind of like a stiffer fabric, sure. So it's not super flimsy. But otherwise, it's not like those Home Alone, what is that, the Forum 84 lows or something like that, or those Flaming Moe shoes. It's not like metal, you know what I'm saying? And so then moving on up here, the tongue, typical mesh stuff. And you got this hole in here for whatever reason. So there's that. And then at the top, you got like the Asics thing and a nice tongue that is kind of like the same style that you saw on the Nova Blast series, right? Yeah, the Nova Blast series. That's very sure that I'm right. On the inside, down in there, you have the skull guy again, the Day of the Dead dude, with a little bit of Asics branding. Because, you know, you got to have a little bit of branding on here once in a while, right? Otherwise, it's just blacked out. So there you go. Now, moving on past that, the pictures kind of speak for themselves. You either like it or you don't like it. I'm not going to tell you how to feel or try to persuade your feelings one way or the other. It does not matter to me, just like my feelings shouldn't matter to you. So that said, I'm still going to give you my feelings or whatever, but don't let them sway you. If you're not on board, I'm not trying to sell you on it. Personally, right? I saw these and I thought to myself, that's pretty cool. I might want to consider picking these up because that would be something cool to have just to break out whenever it makes sense to break them out. And then I waited a little bit too long and they sold out and I was like, well, that sucks, but whatever. Lots of times I forget about stuff as the days go on or whatever. But this was one, like, it would come back to my mind every so often for a while, right? So then I saw a restock and I was like, you know what? I do still want these. And then I had some other stuff to buy and whatever. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just putting them in the cart. Let's just do this. And I got them and I was like, you know what? This is actually pretty cool. It's not wowing me. Like, it's not going to be like my favorite model or anything like that. But I think just for the design, it'll be much like those Dino Blasts where I'm going to like breaking these out once in a while. Probably get a little bit of attention every so often, which isn't a thing that I'm a huge fan of. But something like this, you can't wear this and expect nobody to notice, right? When will I break these out? I mean, I could wait for the next Day of the Dead, but I think that's like the beginning of November. And we are in the middle of November, so that's about a year away, right? Simple math. So either way, I like these. They're cool. I'm going to talk to you about like the sizing and comfort and whatnot, and that might bring things down a little bit as far as like how you feel about these potentially. But again, not trying to sway you, just giving you how I feel about things. I feel like it's important every so often to remind people that this whole thing, it's all just my opinion, right? I can tell you facts of like colorway names and such. Well, sometimes those are facts. Sometimes it's just guesses. But you see what I'm getting at. A lot of opinion stuff here. Don't forget that. Sizing, let's do that. At least from my perspective. I bought these in a true to size, which is 9.5 for me, right? Because I have a 9.5 size foot, bought a 9.5 shoe. It's working out all right. Not amazing, right? Because this is a pretty narrow build. You might have noticed that, right? Just if you were like looking at this shoe or whatever. So it's very narrow build, not a whole lot of room in there. And the mesh itself, this is what, like 140, I think? It's kind of on the cheaper end of the spectrum, right? So it's not going to feel like the Kayanos or the Nimbuses or any of that stuff, right? So I'm just bringing that up because because of the way it's built, that true to size thing may not work out so great for everybody. It's working out fine for me, but just know that going into it. But I think this is a model that you'll see in a lot of running shoe stores. So try them out. Now past that, right? As far as like the underfoot comfort, that is feeling pretty okay, right? It's not anything to write home about. I'm familiar with the Flight Foam Blast. It's been on a lot of shoes that I've had. It's not like the best feeling of it, but it's still feeling pretty decent. And I'm going to have to pull out these Sauconys I forgot to mention in a second here. Kind of drive home some points that I'm going to make. But walking around in these, they felt pretty good for what they are, like under the foot. Even just walking around comfort, I feel like is pretty solid. Running in them, I'll be honest, like I feel like this is going to be a similar experience to those Green Gecko Dino Blasts in a way, where it might be like a little stiffer of a hit than like you might want, as far as heel impact and everything goes for running. And I just ran in something similar the other day, the Infinity Run 4, right? Yeah, same sort of feeling, right? It's cool for walking, but I just didn't care so much for it for running. I feel like this will be like a similar thing, but I'm not going to be wearing these like trying to get my best times or doing like any 10Ks like that, It'll just be kind of like just for fun, breaking them out once in a while. And I think that's where something like this sits, at least for me, right? Or just casual wear, just walking around in. Because this is the kind of shoe that you could put on and just use as a walking shoe, right? Which I don't really get the whole point of like buying like high-end running shoes just for walking personally. But this isn't a high-end running shoe. It's just kind of like a comfortable, cool-looking shoe. So I kind of look at it a little differently than like say a Nimbus or something like that. Now, moving on past that though. This right here, you might remember these. This is the Saucony Ride 17 in the Halloween colorway. Remember it had like the glow-in-the-dark sole? Pretty cool, right? Yeah, that sole, that's about as much as it has going for it because it feels like butt. You know what I'm saying? It just sucks. So like I'm walking around in these earlier, like when I did this review, and I'm like, yeah, this doesn't feel great. I put these on and I walked around in these and I'm like, this feels significantly better, though they seem similar. I put both pair on, one foot in one foot in the other. These are just not that good, right? Every heel impact, just walking, I just felt like, and I was like, I don't like that, right? So I compare these because they come in at about the same price. I want to say they're both $140. So that's the thing. Like, again, when you're buying cheaper things, sometimes you get more from some brands than you will from others at that same price point. I like Saucony for other things. I think this is just like maybe not just their best offering, and I get that. But again, they have actual high-end things that are probably pretty solid. I see a lot of them in my running groups, and I even have a pair of Endorphin something or others. So I can say they do good things, just not everything's going to be great. But personally, and this is just like my own opinion, Asics has been pretty solid across the board for me. Even the stuff that I don't like of theirs, I can still see why it has appeal, which is going to be where I go from here with like the Nimbus 26 review. So from me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest of your night, wherever you are. Like I said, Nimbus 26 coming up next. Later, people.